Welcome to Session 4 of the 2020 Global Marathon. My name is Mimi Irvin, and I'm the chair and host of this year's Global Marathon. Have you ever been discouraged or faced a barrier that seemed insurmountable? Facing challenges is part of any journey, but learning how to turn obstacles into inspiration can help us succeed and pave the way for those who come after us. Today's speakers have felt the odds stacked against them more than once in their lives and are here to share their incredible stories of defying expectations. Andronica Klaas is a graduate of the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy and a career development mentor targeting first-generation students and minorities in tech. From growing up in a small, impoverished township in South Africa to eventually building a successful career in technology at Bank of America, Andronica is committed to using STEM to improve life for students from underrepresented communities.
Hi, my name is Andronica Klaas, and I am a program product manager at Bank of America, as well as the Girls Who Code Alumni Network program. I agreed to do the Global Marathon interview with you because I think it's important to see stories of people that look like me. I remember as a little girl growing up, I was always inspired by women in technology, but I didn't see enough Black and brown girls on the screen. I had to identify with women of other color, which obviously you can because you're a woman, but I think it's different to see yourself. Representation really does matter, and to be given a platform to create that space for a little girl who's looking for someone that looks like her, or even a young woman in her career, whether it's starting off, whether it's mid-career or, high in within your career. I think it's always great to learn from someone that represents you. It shows you the possibilities of becoming, and it's such an honor to be able to step into that position. My story is very simple. STEM saved me from poverty, but it also gave me an undying passion for advocating for people that look like me in STEM spaces, and more so intentional programming when it comes to dealing with students like myself or students from similar backgrounds. I am first generation, I am South African, I am Black, I am a woman. Seeing myself in spaces in corporate America hasn't always been a joy that I get to live up to, right? I actually get excited every time I come across a woman technologist or a woman of color who is in technology. And so that's what STEM is to me. It's bigger than just a day-to-day job. It's my passion. So I tell my story about how I got introduced to STEM all the time, but it gets me excited every time I tell it. It never gets old. I remember, so we had 2 hot plates at home. And I remember one day we were supposed to cook and we tried to turn it on and it doesn't turn on. So just to give context, we lived in a 2-room shack, my 3 siblings, my mom and I, and we lived in the backyard of a kind family's house. And I remember my sister went to our landlord to borrow their hot plate. And in my head, she was just going to use it to cook and just leave it at that. But my sister came and she, opened both hot plate stoves using a butter knife, and she started cross-referencing. She looked at the wiring from the hot plate stove that was working and looked at ours. And so she closes it, she plugs it in, and the excitement that just roared in our household it was beyond us. And I think the beauty of that moment speaks to how technology in spaces of poverty isn't just an accessory. It's something that really is an essential skill. It allows for better survival. I think of my family and how that hot plate stove wasn't just something we cooked with. It was what we used to cook. It was what we used to warm our water in order for us to bathe. And on cold days, it's what we use to keep our 2-room shack warm. I think even bigger than that is the fact that we were anxious because we knew my mother made $100 a month from being a domestic worker. So the idea of my mother not being able to replace that stove, what does that look like? And knowing how technology in that space shifted my thinking, it created a huge amount of excitement in me, right? I felt like Dora the Explorer. I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this? How does it work? What is STEM? And ever since, I want to give people that opportunity. I think of my college experience. In my senior year, I was given the opportunity to work with Google Ignite CS, and the intention was just to create programming around STEM and technology and bring in students, right? And so you had to come up with an alliance between either middle school and high school and our higher institution of learning. And in our last semester, two of my friends and I, Linwood Robinson and Tramel Parker, we created a 3-week summer camp for high school students from Title I schools. So Title I schools are your under-resourced and your underrepresented schools. And the chances of those students from those institutions being introduced to STEM are minimal. Outside of mathematics, the idea of science, technology, and engineering is something that's very foreign to them. And so we created a summer camp, a 3-week summer camp, mirrored the curriculum to one of the computer science classes at Johnson C. Smith. So we condensed that schedule, threw it into 3 weeks, which I'm still so impressed by these high school students, how they were able to just ingest that. I took the class for an entire semester, and I still need to look on Google for some sort of reference sometimes when it comes to coding. And so it was really just impressive to see how these kids had never touched a lick of code before. And here they are creating websites where you can stream movies online for free. One of our students actually, and this moment it makes our hearts so full. He is currently a sophomore at Johnson C. Smith University, which is my alma mater, enrolled as a computer science information systems major. And that's the impact of technology. The idea that he never knew what coding was before this, when the class started and we asked him, what's HTML? No one could answer. But now to know that he is growing as a young man who is now going to become an engineer and paving that forward, it's really such a heartwarming experience. And that's one of the reasons why I stay in technology. So I grew up in South Africa, a small township outside of Johannesburg, and I was raised by a single mother. My mom is a domestic worker, so she cleaned people's houses that we could only ever dream of living in, which I now am grateful for that opportunity because it created exposure, right? I think even though we lived in our 2-room little shack, it gave us possibility of dreaming, to be able to see people live lives that are bigger than themselves. I think I'm so grateful for that opportunity because it was, in a way, a form of manifestation, right? Walking into that space and saying to myself, one day this is possible. And so, my mom was an exceptional human being. She's so hardworking. She is very, very smart. My mother grew up in the apartheid era where there was limitation around education. So I remember one of the prime ministers said something about mathematics where he said, what's the point of teaching the Bantu child mathematics if they're not able to use it past a certain level of living? I find that statement funny now because I am in STEM. And the idea that if I was born 25 years ago or a little earlier than 1994, I wouldn't be given the opportunity to pursue mathematics only because of the color of my skin. And so having seen how my mother was able to transcend past those barriers, she's actually one of the only people that I know that doesn't need a calculator. I still need a calculator for 1 + 1. My mom is just a mathematical genius. And I think my love for STEM has also grown from that, being in an environment where homework was an intimate language between my mother and I. As you can imagine, she spends her entire day cleaning up people's houses and taking care of other people's children. When she comes home, she doesn't have too much of herself to give. So to be able to sit down and have her help me through my mathematics homework, that was a love language between us. It was one of the most intimate moments that I have with my mother and that I carry with me. And so to grow up in an era in which I understand the plight of not being able to be educated at the level that you wish to somewhat carry the burden of seeing my mother not having had that opportunity. I think that's why my mother pushed education so much. She understood that, 1, it was the way out of poverty, but 2, it was what she was robbed of as a child. And I am today grateful that my mother pushed for education as hardly as she did in our house. It was part of the reason why I came across a life-changing moment. At the age of 12, in 2006, Oprah Winfrey, there was buzz around Oprah Winfrey. And I remember we knew her as the lady from TV. It's like, oh my goodness, that's the lady from TV. She has the Oprah show. But in 2006, there was word around the street about how she wanted to open a school for girls in South Africa. And she was in the recruitment process. And I remember one of my cousins applied to the school. And she came back and she told me about it. And she said something about how, you're past the deadline. My heart absolutely sank. And to me, it wasn't just about Mom O's name or the opportunities that I then didn't even understand were going to come out of that, being a part of the academy. It was the idea of being able to go to high school for free and eliminating that cost from my mother. There was one less child that my mother would have to worry about. And it was a gift I knew my mother deserved. And so I remember at 12 years old in our little 2-room shack, I prayed. I'm amazed at how much faith I had and how brave I was and how courageous I was at 12 years old to tell God what's going to happen. Not to ask him, but to tell him. And I remember saying to God, I'm going to get into a high school that's going to be free. And it's going to be such an exceptional institution that I'm going to go to college for free. And that was my story. I said here, I went to the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. My mom didn't have to pay for nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm talking about shoes, socks, hair, nothing. All I had to do was just show up. And even in showing up in that space, you were met with so much love, with so much validation, with endless possibilities, and so many people that believed in you at a capacity that was just beyond, our understanding because of the kind of backgrounds that we came from. But I remember the rigor of getting into the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. There is not a single job interview that intimidates me, only because of my experience with the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. So I remember we would have weekends back-to-back of interviews. And you're interviewing with 3-4 different people a day. You're sitting there and you're taking mathematics tests, you're taking English tests. I had actually never interacted with a computer in my life before until I got to the academy. And now I'm supposed to take a test that's going to determine my placement at the academy on this device that I know absolutely nothing about, right? And just that in itself was just an exciting journey. Like, oh my goodness, what is this? I want to learn more about it. But I remember the final moment of deciding whether you're part of the academy or not. We walked into a room full of lights and cameras and just a lot of people. And then you look and there she is, the lady from TV. It's like, oh my goodness, what? And the funny part is that she had no preparation. No one told you that the final interview would be with her. So you had absolutely no idea what you were walking into. And I blacked out. So I can't tell you anything about that moment. I have absolutely no idea what I said. But apparently it was good because I got into the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. And it was such a beautiful moment. I don't think I understood the magnitude of that moment at 12 years old. I now look back and I'm just amazed. I'm amazed at my bravery, my courage. I'm inspired by the little 12-year-old girl I was. And whenever I come across obstacles that feel larger than life, I look to her. I look to her. I try to tap into what it was about her that was so worthy of being identified as an it girl, as Mom O, who then was Oprah Winfrey. So I look back to my 12-year-old self when life gets larger than me, or when it feels like life is larger than me, to be juggling the interview process and the rigor of the interview process, continuing to perform in school, and to have been exposed to life bigger than what I've known life to be, and be able to come back in and immerse myself with my family and with my culture and with my community, and not be drowned out by the atrociousness of the conditions that, we lived in, but to instead use that as inspiration and ammunition to get into the academy. I'm so proud of her. I strive to make her proud every day. And I think if I could sit down with her, I would love on her so much. I would hug her. I would tell her how valuable she is. I would tell her how worthy she is. Especially going through this journey. You will face a lot of obstacles, but you're capable. You did it at 12 years old. I think if she met me, she'd be really proud. I think of how at 12 years old, I would put women like myself on my vision board. And so to be able to be a manifestation of God's dream for her and her dream for herself, even coming from nothing, is just something that continues to fuel me. I think it's also something that makes me so special in STEM, is that to me, it's bigger than just a degree. It's bigger than just an experience. It's bigger than just a job. I live my dream every day that I wake up. I live a dream that I didn't even know I could dream until I got into the academy and then went to Johnson C. Smith and now with Bank of America. And I want little girls, to have those opportunities. And that's why I'm so adamant about where I invest my time. I think the challenge of moving away from home, right? Being in a new country, being in a new continent, being in a new culture, and trying to shape your identity around what does that look like for me to exist in this space has been one of the challenging things in my life. It continues to be one of the challenging things in my life. And finding people who are my people. I'm at that age where we're starting to grow out of unhealthy relationships, whether it's friendships, whether it's romantic relationships. So what does that look like when you don't have family, immediate family to fall back on? I lost my father in 2014 and I was in the US when that happened. I remember getting a call. I was interning at Discovery. And I remember getting a call in the morning. I was getting ready for work, and the challenge of even being able to articulate to my job that I need time off, I think is one of the things that we struggle with as women, especially in STEM spaces, because we feel the need to prove ourselves so much that we don't allow ourselves to exist as human. We don't allow ourselves that kindness. We're always concerned about, what does it look like if I take a day off? It looks like you take a day off. And that's all there is to it, right? But I think that's one of the obstacles that I'm learning to navigate through, is that I am allowed to be human and that my job allows space for that. I learned it at a young age, and it came at the cost of my father. But I am grateful that I had that opportunity, because I feel like it has taught me how to navigate. When I do have days that I just can't do it, to be able to come back and have the conversation and say, hey, we do have personal days for a reason, and today is one of the personal days. And so what I would say to the woman in me is that you have nothing to prove. You have nothing to prove. You're going to find yourself, and also to other women who find themselves in similar situations, you have nothing to prove to anyone but yourself, and you're going to find yourself in spaces where you are the one of only. Don't listen to the stories that you're being told. Listen to your truth about yourself. Know that you are worthy, and don't allow those stories to cloud how you show up. Because sometimes we get so lost in the narrative of proving how worthy we are that we forget to show up as ourselves, and we cheat ourselves of that moment. And so it's living in that truth. That's how I continue to navigate obstacles in technology. I'm also interested in strategic recruitment and working with Bank of America in terms of creating an intentional program at Johnson C. Smith where we meet the students where they are has been one of my biggest joys as well, right? To be able to come back to a company that has offered me an opportunity and that continues to fuel my dreams and just give me opportunity to become who I am and show up as myself. Now to have that company come back and say, okay, what did it look like when you were in college? How could we have better helped you? And to strategically sit down and say, okay, we're going to have mock interviews. We're going to have branding sessions. We're going to, whatever support it is that the student needs. And I think at some point I remember Sir Sidney Poitier said to my sisters and I, you're going to sit at tables where the decisions of the world are being made, and to be able to have a seat at a table where the decision is being made for students that look like me is just something that makes my heart smile beyond me. And I think that's one of the reasons why I continue to do what I do, right? Is knowing that when I was 18, this is what I needed. And to be able to, reshuffle the narrative around how do we then go in, whether it's coding classes, do we create hackathon opportunities for students at Johnson C. Smith? Do we fund them to, be a part of hackathon initiatives? At an engineering capacity, how do we go in and fuel all of that and validate their dreams? And so, yeah, my journey has just it's been so gracious. I see God's love for me in my life daily. And it's just something that I want to continue to pour out. And the way I know how to do it is through STEM.
Mahfouza Ali is one of only 3 female corporate scientists at 3M out of over 9,000 technical employees globally. She is widely recognized in the global 3M technical community for technology and product development contributions across many business units and is the current winner of the ACS Award in Industrial Chemistry. She enjoys teaching science classes for high school students and mentors many 3M scientists worldwide.
I am Mahfooza Ali, and I'm a corporate scientist at 3M company. Originally, I'm from Bangladesh, a very small country bordering India, and I'm one of the 7 children in the family. My mother never went to school, and my dad did not go to college. Growing up, we had very limited resources. My parents constantly told us, if you want to change your life for better, you better work hard. And you go to school, work hard. So they sacrificed everything in their life so that their children can go to school. Talking about school, I want to tell you a little bit about schooling system in Bangladesh. After completing 12 years of education, you go to university, you apply to undergraduate degree. So there is little difference about education in undergraduate here in Bangladesh. So very first day, you have to declare your major. In fact, you have to get admitted in that major subject department. I chose chemistry, and to that, you have to choose 2 minors. I chose physics and math. So all my undergraduate year, I did only chemistry, physics, and math. So that's my undergraduate degree. So after my undergraduate graduation, I decided to continue my education. I wanted to do PhD, but during that time, we did not have any PhD program in Dhaka University, the university I went to. So I decided to pursue my higher education in USA. But there are a lot of hurdles to cross for that. One is I need 100% financial support. Second thing is I have to get admission, and there is no way I can find information from here because it's a long time ago. And we did not have internet, and also computer is not readily available. So how do you get information? So I did my due diligence. I completed all the required testing like GRE and TOEFL. And after that, there were some students went to one of the university I knew is University of Kentucky. And I talked to them, and University of Kentucky knew about the caliber of Dhaka University student. So I applied and I got in. And after that, I got in. I went to chemistry major, and also during that time, I got married. My husband also had the exactly same background as me. He came to University of Kentucky about a year before me. So after we completed our PhD, during that time, we decided that we should pursue our career at a industry. But again, there are so many hurdles to cross. One is we did not have the permanent residency. Without that, none of the company will even give you the interview. And second thing is during that time, there are massive recession going on. And none of the students before us finding even job who are U.S. citizens. So a lot of things were happening, and so uncertain time. So my husband and I decided that we should pursue our postgraduate work. And through that, there is a chance that we are going to get a green card. And that's what happened. We did it for 2 years, and both of us got the green card. And after that, we started looking, things are looking up, recession is winding down. And we did some search, wanted to find out the industry that we'll be interested to work on. 3M is one of them. And both of us found a job at 3M. Fortunately, finding 2 jobs is very difficult. And 3M hired me as a product developer. And 3M is a science and technology-based company. So there is a lot of opportunity to do basic research and also apply your research to an application for product development. So that really excited both of us. We wanted to do that. And I was hired to develop technology. Based on technology, you develop particular chemical. And I also did process development work. I also did insourcing work so that we can do everything within 3M. We are completely in charge of including raw material to product development. And also, as a working as an industry, you always focus on how can you make your product low cost. So that is another types of research we do all the time in university, in our industry at 3M. And taking those material that I develop, my division is a chemical producing division. I collaborate with my other partners of other division to come up with new product and we commercialize it. So 3M has a global footprint. They have many labs, manufacturing places, sales places all over the world. And I had the opportunity to work with almost all countries that 3M has their functions. And also I closely work with them and I mentor a lot of employees around the globe. I enjoyed so much. The reason I mentor a lot, because when I was young, I did not have a mentor, like even 3M. When I started, I did not know the power of mentoring or, what it would do. I made a lot of mistakes. I hope I did not do that if I worked with a senior person or asked that person for advice. But nowadays, things change. All the young scientists we hire, I get at least one request every week to meet somebody. Somebody came new and their manager asks, talk to Mahfouza, see how she works, how she came this far. So they are so knowledgeable. They are saving 5 years of their time to be there. It took me that amount of time. 3M has 51 technology platforms. This belongs to 3M, even though some scientists developed it. Anybody can use those platforms to put together product. And 3M has 4 business units, and I had the fortune to work with all business unit to commercialize product in their collaboration. Those business units are safety and graphics, transportation, healthcare, and consumer business units. So then what I did is I was so excited to start working, and I am so enthusiastic and have a lot of energy. I got my first project. The first project was doing some fundamental study. They hired me at 3M because I had photochemistry background. I did a lot of synthesis by photochemical scheme. And during that time in the academia, there were some work was coming out, which is like making block polymer by photochemical free radical methods. So I dived into that. I learned what they are doing, and my goal was to use that chemistry and make it into practical chemistry, come up with new product. So after making a prototype in the pilot plant with the help of a lot of engineers, we did some reaction. Reaction went okay, not superb. And then we had to find if we can make even bigger scale, which is the production size batches, which is even much larger than pilot plant. And after exploring few months, we figured it out it's not feasible. Then we had to stop that project. So what I learned from that, engage in finding the manufacturing path from the get-go. Otherwise, you'll be, using a lot of your time without any final outcome. And after that, I figured it out how to do my work, what to look for. And my career went very fast after that, and also have some huge transformation, innovation by working on different needs, different product. And from then on, I was kind of in a good place, and I commercialized many products from transparency film to medical product we worked on, from masking tape and reflective polarizer film, many different types, completely different applications, because all the application needed some specialty polymer, which we can do because we had a tunable technology. So this happened like within 10-15 years of my career. It takes a village to commercialize a product. You need a chemist. In my case, you need an engineer. You need pilot plant, factory, regulatory people, marketing, and business people. As soon as you have a project, build a team, because collectively you can make better progress. You may not make any mistake, or something you are doing maybe not doable in factory setup. They can point you out. Engineer can say you cannot do this way, so you don't have to go back and waste your time and change the course. That was so beneficial. Have the right team and share the credit. Pick your team member who believes in the value of your project, who takes it as their own, like they are leading it. They have to have a buy-in. And also sharing the credit is so important. No matter how small contribution somebody gives you, it is essential for the success of the team. And I would say that acknowledging something is the biggest form of motivation. The speed of your work will go high. The entire team will win. Build connections, spread your technology whenever you have a chance. Give seminar, ask people if they want to hear from you. And that way you build uncommon connections, and that's where the innovation comes in. You will find your technologies being used for completely different way. That's called innovation. Be the type of person who is trusted, reliable, and fun to work with. This is so true, because in your life, you are going to do not only one, not three, hundreds of projects. I would say that leading at work and leading at home is no difference. So I try to apply my scientific method at home too. Sometimes I was in trouble at home. And then embrace work-life integration. Make sacrifices when and if needed. What I mean by that, you don't have to be, when you are at work at 8 hours, it doesn't have to be all 8 hours work. If you want to go to school to attend an event for your children, go there. Make up later. And I used to come during weekend to work to make up, but I did not miss a single event that my children did. And I would say sacrifice. I would say that you decide which is more important to you. Some people may say, okay, you did not go to this party. You are sacrificing. I'm not. I'd rather watch my kids practice piano at home than go to a party. So it's not a sacrifice. And then prioritize every task. Do not spend a lot of time providing little value, whether it is at work or it is in personal life. Next one, I want to say that don't hold certain notion of what would be the work time and what will not be the work time. Especially now, the era of technology, you can do work any place you want. Even sitting in lunchroom, you can answer some email at home, holding your daughter or holding your child, you can do that. It's so easy. When I was young age, we did not have that. I used to come to work during Saturdays to go into departmental server to do some paperwork. So nowadays, my productivity even much, much higher because I can do a lot of work from home. Next one I want to share, be there when it counts, whether it's at work or family event. The reason I say that sometimes in our life, we want to miss an event like about your family. That event may not come again in your life, but your work will be there always. You can make up probably what you missed at work. So that kind of trick I played, and I did not miss a single concert for my daughters because it is so important. I'm not going to see it again in my life, right? So last one in this learn lesson is don't be afraid to use help. You have help around you. My mother was instrumental when I needed her. She was always there. Not only that, at work, you have help. Every company has a lot of experts, senior people, knowledgeable people. Every time you have a project, go talk to them because you'll save a lot of time. They will guide you not to make a mistake that a lot of us made mistake. We learn from our mistake. We don't want you to do that. If you do that, you'll be much ahead of the ball game and you will make progress in high speed. So let's see what I have done. What is my recipe, right? So I think looking back, I built my own purpose. I did hard work. Education was number one, and learning never ends. Still today, I learned so much every day. I learn from young people nowadays. I learn technology from young people nowadays. So I'm not afraid to ask people, I don't know, teach me. And looking back, I think I laid down an impeccable planning, and I could manage both, my professional life and my family life. And I found what makes me happy. I wanted to have a job. When I was 9th grade, I decided I want to be a chemist because I saw an experiment where some chemical disappeared, some new chemical appeared. And I was so amazed. I thought, this is nothing but magic. I want to do magic all my life. So I made that happen to me. Every day I come to work now after 30 years of work, so enthusiastic because I'm making new material, and it's so fulfilling to do something new. And knowing that this new material that I'm making has the potential to benefit thousands, millions of people in the world. That's extremely good feeling, good motivation. And next is family. I'm so proud of my family, and I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed being with my kids, seeing them grow, helping them any way I could to make their life little better. How did I do it? I made my personal goal. I have a minimum in some place, maximum in another place, vice versa. Timing is everything. You have to do everything on time. Otherwise, you are going to miss it. No opportunity will come. Use a sliding scale to do that. So I believe that me and my husband were able to do that together. But all of this was possible because we planned and we are eager, we are motivated, and my husband was also involved so heavily to raise my kids and very accommodating. And without his support, with my mom's support and a lot of people's support, I don't think we would have done this feast. I like this quote from Oprah. You can have it all, but you cannot have it all at once. So you have to balance. Sometimes one will be more, one will be less, but at the end, you will make up. You'll be equal. Thank you, Discovery Global Marathon, for inviting me to share my stories. And thank you, the audience. And I look forward to answer any question you may have.
It's truly incredible what we can do and overcome when we're empowered to embrace our intellect and be bold. I'm looking forward to chatting with these ladies more about their energy and perseverance. Remember to have your questions ready and submit them through the Q&A feature on the Zoom toolbar. Let's go.
Wow, Andronica and Mafuza, this was beautiful. Thank you for both of you to sharing the videos and your stories. My name is Nita Patel. I'm an engineering director at L3 Harris Technologies, as well as the founder of the IEEE Women in Engineering International Leadership Conference and Program. I'm glad to be speaking with the two of you today. We do have a few questions, and for those of you who are not aware, you can enter your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom toolbar, and you can also vote on questions that have been entered by clicking on the vote up icon. So let me start with a question. This is for both of you, and let's have Andronica answer first, and then Mafuza, if you can answer after her, that'd be great. Both of you spoke about giving back and mentoring, whether it was to help an individual craft a resume through a program you started, or it was to share lessons learned in a one-on-one mentoring session. Tell us about your favorite mentoring experience, whether or not you were the mentor or mentee. What was your favorite experience? Let's start with Andronica.
Thank you, Nita. Firstly, this is so new to me. I'm staring at myself and I'm talking to myself and like trying to navigate the screen. But again, thank you for this opportunity. I'm so excited. I'm just truly, truly inspired by you. Your story was just so beautiful. Thank you very much. But in answering that question, for me, I get to be a mentor a lot, but I learn how to be a mentor from my mentors, right? And so one of my favorite experiences, I have a mentor at Bank of America. Her name is Camille John, and she's an executive at the bank. And just having one, she's a Black woman, so I get to see myself in her directly. But also she's a very vocal and strong-willed and confident woman, but she also is not afraid to show me herself when she isn't able to show up as that, right? And I think her showing me that you can be all-rounded and that you don't always have it, and when you don't have it, how do you go about looking for opportunities to go in and like fill in the gaps? That's been my favorite mentorship experience, but it's also been my favorite mentorship experience because she's taught me about sponsorship. So I actually had two separate lives. I had my Bank of America day-to-day mentorship, Girls Who Code, Women in Technology organization, and then I had my speaker life. And I didn't know how to merge the two, or if I should even merge the two. But she helped me transition that by being my sponsor. So she actually sent an email after a keynote that I did. She sent an email to my manager and like a couple of executives at the bank, bringing transparency around that, which has also helped me grow so much as a speaker in terms of opportunity, and like using that experience now at Bank of America. And so I think that's been my great experience, in terms of mentorship, because she's been a mentor, she's been a sponsor, and she's also been, like a person I can look up to as a human being.
Great, thank you. Andronica, Mafuza, what about you?
So mentoring is so important. I'm glad that nowadays the companies are pushing young employees to seek help with senior experienced people. And I did not have that when I was younger, or I did not know about it, as you heard from my presentation. So nowadays, whenever I hear somebody wants some help and they send me an invite saying that my manager asked me to talk to you about your experience and learn from you what you have done so far. So I get so excited to talk because when I was younger, I felt that need. I made a lot of mistakes and I learned so hard. It was hard for me to learn everything by myself. So that's the reason I always accept anytime they ask me to meet with somebody to help them out. Nita, can I ask you, I'm hearing some background noise. Are you?
Yes, I think we just will get through something? That a little bit. There was a little bit, so
okay.
Yes.
All right. So I do have so many memories of so many stories I like when I mentor. One of the questions all of my younger mentee asked, how they can commercialize a product? What are the steps? What would be the thing they need to look for from the very start? So that's my favorite question because my job function is I invent something, and then after inventing, then you have to produce for commercialization. My division is so unique in 3M. We go through all the steps from invention to commercialization of a product goes through me. So I am very knowledgeable about every step of this process. I'm only involved in one step, but I collaborate with other people like engineers and marketers and regulatory people to go through commercialize a product. So
Great.
when you ask me about the process, I'm very excited to teach them because it's something everybody should do to save their time. So that's my favorite thing, to help them out. So during the course of talking with my mentee, most of them kept, I don't do official mentoring. It's all unofficial. They come to me to talk to me, and then they start coming back and back because they felt like that I was very useful to guide them with their project, this and that. And I follow up because I'm so interested what they do also. I learn what is their project, what kind of product they are developing, and we discuss. And then it is so satisfying to see their success. And I feel like through talking to senior people, they gain so much time, less that they needed for commercialization. Those are very satisfying to see their growth, the way they work is fantastic. Another thing also, I get a lot of questions from the mid-career level employee when they are struggling with raising a family and building up the career, right? So I get a lot of questions from them, then how do you balance your life? So I tell them, you heard some of those, how I did it in my presentation. So I just love helping them. And do a great job. I try to, help them out with their career. Like I nominate them for some award. That was so satisfying to see that they get recognized for their work, and I have a very small part to guiding them. So those are the fantastic feeling. And as I said, the recognition is the highest form of motivation. So once you get that, you will produce more and good work, more work. So that's how you start. So everything about mentoring, I really like it. I never refuse to mentor or talk to anybody who asks me to talk.
That's great. Thank you. Both of you really highlighted the essence of personal relationship and personal investment in the mentoring process. I appreciate that how when you take an interest, other people also take an interest and we can help one another. That was awesome. We do have several questions. I'm going to go with the ones that were voted most and down the list as far as we can. The first question for you is, have you ever felt pressured to become more technical to prove yourself? Sometimes I do feel that it's a double standard, and have you had this experience? So let's start with Mafuza. Have you felt pressured to be more technical or prove yourself?
So one thing I like to tell you that when you are young, that time you really you form during that time. So I had a wonderful parent. Even my mom never went to school, but she was very smart. I had to find another person as smart as she is. She's extremely smart. My dad never went to college because he had to work to support his family. But they had the wisdom and vision. So they guided us very, very well. So I remember I have we have 7 siblings and I'm the number 6. So I have 4 brothers. My dad always treated me as another boy. He never distinguished between girl and boy. So he always took us to many places like Science Museum, or always did some science related activities in the house. So I was not pressured because, a long time ago in Bangladesh, is a stereotype is boys goes to science school, girls goes to arts school, right? But in my household, it was completely different. So I was exposed to many different things. And this is me. I chose to go to science. My mom and dad never told me what to do, how to do it, because they have no knowledge, in fact, to do it. But they created the opportunity for us so that we are exposed to STEM related activities. And at work, after you are like in high school, I don't think it is hard to mold anybody. You are already all set which direction you're going to go. I was extremely motivated even, and I go beyond whatever I do about science. So I was never pressured even at work, and I'm self-motivated, and I just want to finish what the task was given in front of me. I find out how can I do it by myself, or if I don't know it, I seek help. But I don't think I was ever pressured to go into STEM or science or more technical. It's me. You form your own choice long before you enter at a job and in your career.
Great. And Andronica?
Oh, perfect. Actually, yes, I have. So in college, I was a computer science major. So I think it's funny how, we have similar stories, but we're like on different ends of similar stories in some of the answers. But when I was in college, I was a computer science information systems major, which that included a heavily technical portion in terms of curriculum. So a lot of coding. And I think I did pretty good at coding. I know how to code, but I'm not an expert at coding. So when I transitioned into my corporate career, I started off in quality assurance engineering. I absolutely loved it, but it also requires you to be, somewhat heavily technical, because if you're going to be able to testing people's code, it comes to your best benefit that you know how to read code. So there was a lot of pressure in terms of being technical. I think also a lot of the pressure didn't come so much from testing the actual application, but feeling like I wasn't able to be a part of the conversation if I wasn't heavily technical, right? So if we're sitting in a Scrum call or we're sitting in a project management meeting where we're talking about, okay, what did the deliverables look like from a technical standpoint? My lack of technicality, like my, well, I was technical, but not highly technical or as highly technical as everyone in the room. It was also a challenge because I had just started working, right? My 3-year anniversary in corporate is in July. So to be able to match the technical ability of people who have been working possibly for longer than I've been alive is a constant pressure. And so I think it goes back to the whole responsibility, right? So learning the new skills. I love learning. I think my developers get annoyed by me because I'm always bugging and asking them questions, or they might love it. I can't speak for them, but relieving that pressure. So one, yes, I do get the pressure. It's a constant pressure, also a pressure that I put on myself. But two, how do I relieve that pressure? I learn. I am big on learning. I will ask questions, even if I feel like it's a simple question. I also use W3 schools a lot. So I'm always on W3 schools and, tools of the sort, trying to brush up my technical knowledge, whether it's learning Python because it's the new language that everyone is catching on to, or whatever new skills I feel like are going to, put me ahead in conversation. But it also goes back to knowing what I'm able to bring to the table, right? I may not be the most technical person in the room, but sometimes it works to the favor of the room. If we're talking about a business deliverable, right? And everyone in the room is heavily technical, that's great. But we need someone who's able to translate that into business acumen. What does it look like? Is it a user-friendly application, right? And so that's where my lack of technicality comes in. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds great in terms of technology, but how do we simplify this so that when we are talking to the business, we are able to, speak in everyday English. Not everyone understands technicality. So I think it's understanding your skill sets, understanding what skill sets you can leverage, even though you're not as technical, and figuring out how you can use those skills to bring value to the team.
Great. And both of you commented, right, whether you have that pressure or not, sort of having the support and a mechanism through learning or your family or some encouragement can help you push beyond that. I really appreciated that. Andronica, while we have you, I'm wondering, I have a question specifically for you. You speak a lot about your earlier self and the daily life of when you were younger. So if you could give yourself some advice when you were 12, what would you say now that you have different experiences and have moved to that point at a different point?
Honestly, I think at 12 years old, I was a lot braver than I am now. And I think it's because I see it in my nephews. My nephews are around that age. They don't listen, which is actually sometimes a great thing, because people will, talk to you and tell you what you're capable of doing and what you're incapable of doing. And that ability to decide that I'm not listening to what you're saying is a skill and, a personality trait that I wish she would have held on to. I think it would have helped me show up as my best self continuously in whatever spaces I walk in. Sometimes I get so caught up on, oh, I'm the only person of color in the room, which is not to minimize that experience, because that is an experience that, it really takes a toll on you. But I do see how sometimes the stories that I have been told or the stories that I've told myself limit how I show up in the room, right? Because now I'm showing up as the only person of color as opposed to Andronica, and sometimes Andronica is more resilient and smarter and, just has a clearer mind than walking in with whatever, the scotoma it is that comes from those limitations. So my younger self, I would tell her, hold on to that personality trait. It's going to come in handy for you. I would tell her that everyone who called you a chatterbox growing up is one day going to end up paying to watch you speak. So enjoy being a chatterbox and don't silence yourself, but also be smart in how you speak. I think I was a little reckless growing up. I just said exactly what was in my head. So I would definitely tell her, be careful, be intentional, be aware of, the things that you say and how they impact other people, I would have invested more in getting to know about STEM at that age, when I got excited by the fact that, you know, my sister was able to repair a hot plate stove. And yeah, I think those are the things, you know, I just, having watched her grow, I think she has grown into a really good woman. You know, when I detach myself and I speak of myself in third person, I generally think she would be proud.
Awesome. Yes, I think there are many people, including me on this call, proud to know you and hear from you. So thank you for those words. Mafuza, a question for you specifically as well. Somebody asked about being a American Chemist Society scholar, and they're wondering, how did the professional membership or the professional society impact your career and your life, and what words would you have to share about that?
So American Chemical Society is one of the highest membership in the world, like many, because this is one of the highest organization. Many people is the member, like engineers, chemists, all belongs to that society. So that American Chemical Society gives you much more opportunity, especially for the graduate student. They have national meetings every year, two times, I believe. And you get connections. You have the opportunity to present any work you have done. If you do that, you get connected with the academia or industry, then you get more interaction with professors and many more chemists, in my case. So that is very helpful. And also, this organization has a, we call a Journal of American Chemical Society, which is the premier journal for scientists. Anything new comes out in the world, that is published in there. So if you have any publication in that journal, that makes a big impact in your career, whatever you do, because it's very prestigious and you get recognized, the people knows you and your career advance. And for the award that I got, this called Industrial Chemist Award. So every year, many people applies from industry to get that award. Every year they pick one industrial chemist for this award, which is incredible prestige if you get that, not only for me, also for my company, because you know that there are thousands of chemical industry in the world. So from among all those things, they pick only one person. So I was very fortunate to be picked. And I don't want to take a lot of credit for that, because, you know, my career success belongs to not only me, for many people helped me to come up to this far. And also, not only that, your advocate, you have to have an advocate to advocate for you what you have done. You cannot beat your own drum. Somebody have to beat your drum. So my company found me, you know, they felt like that I have a good chance to winning this, and they put together, this is a huge application process. They put together a huge application for that. And you see, you need, like, a lot of things have to come in place for getting this award. So I was very fortunate. And I got that one last year. So, you know, it happens not very early in your career, because you already have to establish yourself. You already have to have a lot of contribution in science area, in STEM area, then you get chosen for those kind of award. But I'm very happy that we got it. I'm happy for myself. I'm happy for my company. This is an extreme visibility for all of us in the chemical world, in the scientific world. So it is very helpful, always helpful.
Great, congratulations, and thanks for sharing. We are coming up on 1 o'clock. However, both Andronica and Mafuza have agreed to stay on a little bit longer. So for those of you who need to drop off, thank you for joining us, and hope you join us for the last session next week. For those of us who are able to stay on, we'll spend another 15 or 20 minutes with these two wonderful ladies. I do have another question from the voting online. If you were to give advice for how to establish a mentoring relationship, as you're still trying to work through your career, what is your advice for establishing that relationship? And let's start with Mafuza.
As I said a little while ago, I'm very happy to see that nowadays young people are very reactive, aggressive. They seek out help much more than what I did when I was younger. And also many divisions supports this program because they found out by mentoring, you can really expand your success. Either mentee and mentors both are, get benefited by that. So my advice for my mentee is be very enthusiastic, whatever you do, and deliver with urgency. And this is your job too, because all of us, senior people, are very busy with so many things. So you need to take the initiative to establish, relationship with your mentor, and be on time when you set up some meeting, and be prepared. And don't, because time is of the essence. We don't have that much time. So you need to be concise what you want to achieve through this mentoring process, and have a fruitful discussion, and come up with a lot of questions and follow up. That's very important. And one of the goals I like to practice, I'm not going to give you the answer, but I'm going to help you to find the answer. So I'm going to teach you how to fish. I'm not going to catch fish for you. So that way you will grow much faster than than others. So I would say that be organized and respectful of your mentor's time, because they are always busy. Usually, senior people are busy with many things. And just whenever you need something, just reach out. And as for the mentor perspective, I would say that we love to talk to young people, because we get to learn new technologies. They are, they're in the, and I learn a lot from them. So make sure that you come prepared, as I mentioned before, and reach out. Don't be shy. Number one thing that we love mentoring. All of us love mentoring. So I was very shy when I was very young, because I thought that, oh my gosh, I want to ask this question, what that person will think. It's not that. Ask any question you want. There was never a stupid question in the world. So be brave and frank and honest. That's also another thing I want to,
All right. Great. Reach out, take a learning attitude, don't be shy. Andronica, how about you? What would be your advice for establishing a mentoring relationship?
I think that was really great advice. So just to add on, in terms of finding mentors, because I get asked a lot, how do you find a mentor, or how do you identify a mentor within an organization? In terms of corporations that do have women in technology operation organizations, I would reach out to work streams like that. A lot of companies are now onboarding the whole employee network opportunities, right? Where there's an employee network, whether it's specific to professionals in a certain field or professionals, of a certain classification. So reaching into those spaces, attending those events. I love using the I'm new card when I'm new. So that's also been a great way for me to build relationships and create mentorships. And sometimes the mentors, that you are looking for don't have availability, right? So figuring out, how do I make this a two-way relationship? I love it when my mentees reach out to me and say, hey, I haven't heard from you in a while. Is there anything that I can do to help you? Right. And so I think being intentional about that and realizing that it is a relationship, you also have a lot to offer as a mentee. So that intention, being intentional about it, knowing what you want to get out of that mentorship. So I have something that I do. It's a development plan, and it's a career development plan. So I have my short-term goals that would be from 6 months to a year. I have my long-term goals that would be 5 to 10 years. And then I have skills that I need, skills that I can leverage, and roles that align to those skills. So let's say I am great at coding, right? I know that, okay, a skill that, a role rather that aligns with that is development. And when I go to my mentors, those are the kind of material that I present so that they have a full picture and a full idea of, oh, this is what, this is what I'm dealing with. This is the student, or this is, the employee. It also just helps you shape your mentorship You know, when you are driving with them, you're saying, okay, if it's a career-based mentorship, this is where I am, this is where I want to go. So how do we map out a plan together? I think also looking for sponsors, you know, so figuring out if you want someone to be your mentor or your sponsor. In terms of my mentor who's an executive, I oftentimes, you know, think of her more as a sponsor. She's a person I'll go to and she'll say, hey, what do you need? I'll put you in contact with the right person, you know, whereas there are other mentors who are not able to make those connections, right? So I think having mentors who are on different, who have different capabilities and who are able to offer you different things. But honestly, it's always sending out an email. I used to be so intimidated. I would look at someone and think, oh my goodness, I think she's so brilliant. I want her to be my mentor, but I'd be very intimidated because I felt like I didn't have much to offer. Generally, just send out that email. Hey, I'm, you know, really excited about this. I would like to have coffee with you, but set the intention of that coffee. I generally don't enjoy getting meeting requests to say, hey, let's have coffee, and I don't know what I'm supposed to bring to the coffee meeting, right? So if you're able to help me figure out, okay, this is the intention of that coffee session, you know, you're also helping that person get it. And I think a lot of women understand how difficult it is to be a woman in the tech field and in the STEM field. So genuinely, I've never come across a woman who I've reached out to and said, hey, you know, would you be my mentor? Do you know someone I can reach out to who would be my mentor? I've never gotten a no. I've always gotten a, oh, you know, let me put you together. Let me put you with this person. So I think it starts with an email. Just send that email that you've been drafting, that you've been so scared to send out. Just send it and you'll get a response.
Great. Yeah, be intentional and take the initiative, similar to Mafuza's advice. Awesome. We'll start with you, Andronica, with this next question. How does it look like to move forward as you go through your career? What does that look like to you? And have you ever felt scared to take on a new responsibility? How did you deal with it? How did you take that step? If you can answer that, that'd be awesome.
Honestly, every time I accept a new role, it feels like there is no floor underneath my feet. And I don't know about everyone else. I know how to walk. I don't know how to fly. So it's really overwhelming, right? And so I think, again, that I'm new card, right? Whenever you feel overwhelmed, it's that I'm new card, going to somebody and saying, hey, I'm new. I don't know how to do this. Hey, I'm new. And I think within the first 6 months, people are genuinely with you when you use the I'm new card. So for me, it's always been, my intention is learn as much as you can within the first 6 months. I've never come across a manager that expects me to deliver really quickly within the first 6 months. I think there's that, you know, understanding that, okay, you're still learning within the first 6 months. So I use that opportunity to genuinely learn. If there are any material, I like to pay attention to who the smartest person is in the room for different areas of expertise. And so say when it comes to development, it's said person. I'll go to that person and say, hey, I realize that you know a lot about this. Do you mind sitting down and talking me through it? And I'll do that with every business of expertise in that space. So, you know, again, intention, figuring out what you want to learn from each of those people. And also it's just, you know, you can't take away the feeling of fear, right? You can't take away the feeling of fear. So it's allowing myself to feel it, but not letting it limit me. You know, even before getting on this call, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so anxious. This is the first time I have to look at myself while I'm talking. It's really weird. And also just the idea of there's so many exceptional women in STEM who are tuning in to listen to me for actual advice. You know, so making sure that you meet that. But again, it's conquering the fear, allowing yourself to feel it, but not letting it limit you. Learn. The first 6 months for me have always been very, very crucial. And also having those conversations with your manager. So Bank of America does a great thing where we have one-on-ones with our manager. So we do it either bi-weekly or weekly. So setting your intention for all of those one-on-ones. If there's something that I want to learn about particularly in that session, I'll send my manager an email ahead of time so that she's able to prepare for the session. So that when she comes in, she's able to give me all the resources or all the answers. And sometimes she'll send me reading material before the meeting. And so when we sit down, it's, oh, okay, this is what you were asking. Now I have follow-up questions on that. So it's really just forcing yourself to be a continuous student in those spaces. That's really how I try to get, past the whole anxiety and the fear of, a new role or taking on more responsibility, and asking for help.
Awesome. Yeah, don't let the fear limit you, and ask
Yeah.
for help. Love it. Mafuza, from you.
Okay. For me, I'm going to talk a little differently because I was doing exactly same thing. I started my work, right? When I joined my company, I'm a scientist. I develop chemicals, a product. The difference is I finish a project, I get a new project. Like some people change their job. So whenever I get a new project, what I do, I try to find out information about that project. I talk to people who has done something similar to that within the company and find out what exactly was done, or do literature search in that area, what was already done. So I study, I put together a plan, and I put together a team, because for making a product, it takes a huge number of people to do that. So I just reach out with engineer because I have some idea if it is doable. Before I even start my work, I talk to them, see if it is feasible. I learned this kind of technique a little later of my career, because initially I had no idea what I was doing. I did a lot of stuff. Then later I found out I should have looked into, investigated before I started my work. So not to waste time, nowadays I just reach out with people to find out what was done, especially for 3M. 3M is a huge company. There are many scientists in 3M, many experts. So always reach out to experts, learn from their experience, and also tap into their your discussion, your idea with them, cross-fertilization. That way you will be much ahead in your project. So that's how I try to do nowadays. And we also have a timeline. When I was given a project, I have a timeline. Within 1 year or 2 years, you have to finish it. And we start with everything is unknown. You have to have invention. You cannot force invention. You have to dream about it, or you have to come up with something first and go from there by doing it. And by experimenting, by learning, and regrouping, all these kind of things. As a chemist, I try to advance my project by reaching out to other people, learn from them, and also by reading a lot of information out there.
All right, great. So this will be our last question as we come up 15 minutes past here. So for Mafuza, let's start with you this time. What has been the greatest obstacle you've faced in your career, and how did you work through it? What is it that you thought I can't possibly overcome, yet you did, and how did you go about doing it?
So greatest obstacle I faced is, again, once you are given a very important project, and after working in the lab, and lab work is successful, but when you go to the factory where you have to make much larger amount, like one of the example is in our lab, we make, like, let's say about 20 gram scale. But when you produce that material in the factory, you have to make 20 million gram of material. So it's a huge difference, right? So many things can go wrong. So I would say that what I did one time is I was doing fine in the lab. We thought that we invented a beautiful chemical that could be useful. Then we went to the pilot plant. There is a step. From lab, you go to pilot plant, which is a little bigger scale. From pilot plant, you go to the factory, even bigger scale, right? So when I went to the pilot plant, we found out that this chemistry may not be possible to do. So what you do? I seek out other engineers, because pilot plant, I get hooked up with engineers because they are the one taking care of all the instrument, and all the logistics is in their hand. I'm a chemist and they're engineer. We collaborate together. So I reach out, a number of engineers discuss what can we do to solve this problem. Um, how can I overcome that? So we brainstormed, we kind of, studied, see what is available in the world so that we can put together the instrument so that we can make that chemical. And reaching out is number one to other people. So from that, we could not solve that problem because there is nothing we could do. We are ahead of the market, there is no instrument to create our material. So, but the learning from that experience, what I do right now, after that, it happened earlier part in my career. After that, what I start doing right now, that whenever I do something new, I always talk to the expert, the engineers or regulatory people, whether I'm allowed to use this kind of system. If not, then I'm going to change gear. I'll find something else without wasting my time. So that's how I would suggest the young people, whenever you have something new to do, please seek out people, experienced people, ask them if it is your idea, you have an idea, if you can do this. If not, they'll give you a lot of good advice. You can immediately change to something else without wasting a number of days, weeks, sometimes you spend years. So you'll save it. So that's how you can overcome a lot of obstacles if you do that early on.
Great, seek out advice. How about you, Andronica?
Hi, as I was trying to run through which one I felt like was the most difficult obstacle. And I think often, when you are in a career that's in STEM or in technology, you're going to face technical issues all the time and challenges. I think that's a constant more than anything, right? The idea of compatibility, whether your software is compatible with what your delivery platform is. Those are the daily joys of being in technology. But for me, it's not so much the technology that's been one of the most difficult moments in my experience. Not so much delivery, because I've been blessed enough to be surrounded by exceptional team members, right? So being able to always ask a question, being able to always find the resources to answer that. For me, my challenge always comes with being in a space where I remember I was an intern, and I was not interning with Bank of America. So this is not a Bank of America related experience. I will not say the company's name, but I remember one of the biggest challenges I faced was feeling overlooked constantly throughout the summer. So we would be sitting in meetings. I was creating the product for that company. I was the one that was sitting, coding, creating the inventory list, creating databases and everything. But in meetings, I wasn't getting my credit. So not a single mention would come that, thank you, Angelica, for creating this product. And so that was a challenge for me because it demotivated me. I didn't want to continue to come to an internship where I felt like my work wasn't being credited. And I realized that a lot of women have had similar experiences throughout different times in their career, right? And so for me in that moment, it was learning to be assertive, and being able to own the room and say, hey, I created this product, so I should be able to speak to this product. Mm-hmm. And so initially I went to my manager and I was like, hey, I really don't appreciate how you don't allow me the opportunity to present my own product, and you present the project as though it's your work. I understand that you are my manager, so essentially it is because I work for you, but it's also something that I've put my entire heart into, and I would like the opportunity. And so my manager allowed me that opportunity. And once we got into the room, everyone would overlook me and ask my manager questions. And so now it was a matter of, okay, we've come across obstacle number one, not getting credit for my job. Now I'm feeling like no one in the room recognizes that this is my hard work. And so I'm still learning how to navigate those spaces, and I think a lot of the times I try to pay attention. To, is this the person's personality? Do they just talk over everyone? Do they just overlook? Do they think, oh, this is the person who knows all the answers, so I'm always going to ask that person? But I think also being able to be confident in your work and come back and say, hey, The question that you asked, I'm able to answer that. Let me walk you through what this, and this, right? And then also building an ally in the room. One of my project managers, my absolute favorite from, my entire career, Jeremy Andler, he was my go-to. He was my go-to. So in meetings when I would feel like people are not hearing my questions or people are not hearing my answers, he would echo what I'm saying. So he would say, hey, as Andronica noted, right? So finding a person who is able to recognize that this is a continuous pattern, and this is a pattern that I perhaps can use my masculinity or whatever it is, that gave, or maybe it was because Jeremy had been working at the company longer than I have, but creating a relationship with a person who's empathetic enough to say, okay, I see what's going on. This is not okay. And helping you build your credibility in that space. So that's how I dealt with that. And that's how I continue to, in moments in which I feel like, oh, I'm not being heard. And I think also, this is one I don't like doing, but I'll single the person out. I'll say, hey, said person, thank you for your enthusiasm. We're really excited that you're just as excited about this topic, but let me get through what I said so we can give you the opportunity to say what you want to say uninterrupted. So in that moment, you're setting the tone for the entire meeting that that's not acceptable behavior. But also now the person is aware that, oh my goodness, what I did was actually rude. But you're also providing them the opportunity to say, okay, we recognize the enthusiasm. So once I'm done talking, go ahead and be enthusiastic. We welcome it, right? Mm-hmm. So finding a healthy way to, to create that space where everyone feels heard and valued.
Awesome. Well, Mafuza and Andronica, it's been a pleasure to spend the afternoon with you. I love the stories of the obstacles and overcoming the challenges, establishing mentoring relationships, sacrifices, deciding when to build your own space and when to take your own time. It was a beautiful time today. Thank you both very much for your time and patience. I do want to remind everybody that there is one more session in the Discovery Global Marathon. This session, this one that you just heard, will be available on demand at discovery.org. And then the last session of the marathon will be next Wednesday, April 8th at 12 p.m. Eastern for the final session. Please join us then, and thank you for joining us today. Take care.
Thank you, Nita.
Bye.